Thanks for joining us. I'm Stormy O'Donnell. Welcome to the Mobile Midday News. Now we're bringing you the show live from IEEE GlobeCom right here in downtown Austin, Texas. Our show today is brought to you by telecomcareers.com, the industry's largest resume database and jobs board. Now we have a special guest with us today, Ted Rappaport. Ted is a program executive and also a jack of many trades. We'll get to that interview coming up, but first let's get you some headlines. Now Verizon is apparently feeling the heat of the competition. The company says it's lost more customers to rivals this quarter than it did all of last year. Now mobile data discounts and device promotions are likely driving customers to Verizon's competitors. And the company's fourth quarter earnings report is due out January 22nd, so you can count on us to, when it comes out, we'll let you know what happened. And news out of the TM Forum out in Silicon Valley. HP is continuing its push into network function virtualization. HP's new NFV Director 2.0 combines operations support with IT management into an NFV orchestration suite designed for telecom providers. And this transition to the telco cloud, complete with NFV capabilities, it's a big topic. We're hearing about it all the time, and we'll continue to follow this. So a lot of action going on in that space. And now, as I mentioned, we have Ted Rappaport standing by with my colleague, Sean Kinney, so we'll throw it over to them.
For RCR Wireless News, I'm Sean Kinney, and I'm joined today by Ted Rappaport here at IEEE GlobeCom in Austin, Texas. Ted is the Director of Wireless at NYU, and he's also an endowed professor of electrical engineering at NYU Polytechnic. So Ted, tell me a little bit about what some of the big trends you're seeing at IEEE GlobeCom this year.
Well, good afternoon, Sean. It's great to be here. This is a very exciting conference. It's our annual Global Communications Conference. We had two great keynote speeches today from the head of security, Chief Security Officer Ed Amoroso from AT&T, who talked about how we protect networks, enterprise networks of the future, and how you build a global network. And we had a great speech by Dr. T, James Truchard, the CEO of NI. And he talked about virtualization and design flow and how to use software tools to make the wireless devices of the future. In a nutshell, the trends I see are 5G wireless, networks of the future, driverless cars, and basically the nuts and bolts that will make the future optical, wireless, and wired networks possible.
Very good. And you know, Ted, you mentioned 5G. I think you're the fourth person I've talked to this morning. So far, I've heard three different definitions of what 5G is. Obviously, multiple data planes and ultra-low latency are key. But from your point of view, what's 5G going to look like by the time it's commercially deployed?
Great question. The fact is that carriers need more bandwidth. They need more spectrum. And there's just not much more fundamental improvement you can do at the physical layer with today's technology other than split cells more and more. The bottom line is they need more bandwidth. And if you look at auction 97 and the $40 billion already racked up for 65 megahertz of spectrum, we need more spectrum. That spectrum's only going to come at frequencies above 6 gigahertz. So millimeter wave, centimeter wave, moving up the carrier frequency, something we've done in clock speeds and computer memory sizes for the last 4 decades. We've seen orders of magnitude. Cellular's been mired in this 300 megahertz to 3 gigahertz regime. We got to pop out of that. So that's going to be part of 5G. With that comes spatial processing, adaptive filtering in space, adaptive antennas, phased array antennas, bringing those in. That's where you get the huge increase in capacity on the physical layer, and modulations will follow that. So I see part of 5G not just being the two things you mentioned, the backplane and the low latency. Those are all requirements. But we need more bandwidth, and we're going to get that with much greater bandwidth channels, and a lot of that will come from new spectrum above 6 gigahertz.
All right, and then Ted, I want to ask you one last question. I know that some of the Chinese telcos are looking for prototype deployment 2018. I keep hearing 2020 as carrier-ready 5G. From your perspective, is the R&D tracking to support that target date?
Great question. I don't think it is right now in the global complex. I think some governments are ahead of the curve and some companies are ahead of the curve. But I think 2020 might be optimistic given where we are now. However, Things happen at lightning speed when there's motivated teams. Look how fast CDMA changed the world in the early 1990s. So I think it's possible the 2020 deadline could be hit. Actually, I think 2018 you'll see some of the early prototypes. Some of the early movers, the fast movers I see, are Samsung. Samsung has remarkable technology that they're showing the world. They're moving very quickly. A number of our industrial affiliate sponsors at NYU Wireless, Nokia, Huawei, National Instruments, Ericsson, Qualcomm, they're all working very quickly as well. So there are a number of companies that really have their head down and are starting to put a lot of engineers in. I don't see the courses in the academic institutions or the graduate programs around the world yet adapting at the speed we need. But hopefully those classes and materials on 5G, ultra-low latency, ultra-wide bandwidth, spatial processing, adaptive antennas, smart antennas, hopefully those come into the curriculum quickly. And I think what you see here at GlobeCom is a lot of interest in those topics that will motivate a lot of the academics who are here.
All right, well, fantastic. Ted Rappaport, I want to thank you for joining us for Midday Mobile News here live from IEEE GlobeCom. Please stay tuned all week. We'll be doing Global Joe and Midday live all week.